Okay, we're back. This is Tech Math 1. We are looking at the final review. So let's get started. Solve for D. So we got all these variables, solve for D. Problem, there are two D's. So we will cross multiply. So we have AH times R plus D equals R minus D. And so now what we're going to have to do, we are going to have to do the distributive property. And so now check it out. We got AHR plus AHD, and that equals R minus D. So we'll leave this D here, AHD. We'll get rid of that to that side, so minus AHR minus AHR. So now we have this, AHD is equal to R minus AHR minus D. Now, we're trying to solve for D, so we're going to get that D over to this side. Plus D. I got to make sure it is D and not A, because my D's and A's look the same. Okay, no, it's definitely D. All right, so now look at what we do. We've got this. We've got AHD plus D equals R minus AHR. And so now we have to factor out the D. So we got everything that wasn't D over to the right side, everything that was D over to the left side. We now factor out the D. And we end up with AH plus 1 is equal to R minus AHR. And now we divide AH plus 1. AH plus 1. And that is my answer. So D is equal to R minus AHR over AH plus 1. All right. R minus AHR over AH plus 1. Yep. Cool. So let's look at the next problem. So for K, this one's going to be a lot easier. That one was pretty tough. There's a lot of steps in that one. This one, solve for K, so we'll minus H from both sides. So we have V minus H equals K times W minus 1. And now we just divide out the W minus 1. So much easier. And we're done. So K is equal to V minus H over W minus 1. All right. That was from chapter 9. Chapter 10, find the slope. We can get that one squeaked in here. Negative 4, comma 2, and 2, comma negative 4. To find the slope, it is the change in y over the change in x. Remember, the formula for slope is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So x1, y1, x2, y2. And so here we go. Negative 4 minus 2 over 2 minus negative 4. And two negatives in a row make a positive, so top is negative 6, bottom is 2 plus 4, which is positive 6. So negative 6 divided by positive 6 is negative 1. So our slope is negative 1. All right, lovely. Next part in chapter 10 was find f of negative 1. So that's pretty easy, right? That's just plug and chug. We just put in values and figure out the answer. Alrighty. Here we are. We got number 2, f of x is equal to 2x squared, and they said find f of negative 1. So that just means we're going to put in negative 1 anywhere where there's an x. And now order of operations, so exponents first. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1 times 2. That's just 2. So f of negative 1 is 2. Number 3, 3x plus 6y equals 10. And it says, write in slope-intercept form, right? In slope-intercept form. So that's just fancy talk for solve for y. So we want to solve this for y. So get y by itself first, so that means subtract 3x. Now be careful. This is a very common error I've seen over my career where students do 10 minus 3x and say it's like negative 7 or 7x or something. You can't. You can't put an x with a number, so it just stays negative 3x plus 10. Unlike terms there. And then divide by 6. Since they're kind of prepping us for graphing, we would divide by 6, but individually, not put it all over 6. We divide each individual piece by 6, and then you can reduce it, so that's better. So y is equal to negative 3/6 is negative 1/2. X, don't forget the x, also a very common mistake, and plus 5/3. So we reduce that by dividing both top and bottom by 2. We reduce this by both dividing top and bottom by 3. All right? Lovely. Then it says graph. So you have your tech on you, your technology, so you can just use your graphing calculator and hit y sub 1 and graph it. Okay. So 5y equals 2x minus 10. So we divide everything by 5 first, no matter what. So you got y equals 2/5 x minus 2. So, I mean, this one, if you wanted to do it without graphing, you could use slope-intercept, like 2/5. The slope is 2/5. The y-intercept is negative 2, or 0 comma negative 2. And then remember how that works. This is the starting point on y. Those are like the directions. So I put a dot, a negative 2 on the y-axis. And then from that dot, up 2 and to the right 5. Up 2, 1, 2. And to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I put another dot. So from here, 2 up, 2 blocks up, 5 blocks over, boom. And then graph the line. And you're done. You can kick it into your graphing calculator. If you put it in your graphing calculator, probably the easiest, you hit y equals y1. And then put in 2x divided by 5 minus 2. That's probably the easiest way to enter it. And it's not the only way. You could go 2 divided by 5 is 0.4 and do 0.4x minus 2 also. That's fine. But that's probably the quickest. All right. Okay, then we're on to chapter 13. It says solve using the addition method. So let's do that. On that one, I am going to want to see some work, so make sure you show some work for that, or if they say specifically to use the addition method. I'm fine with you using a matrix to check your answer, like throw it into a matrix and hit reduced row echelon form and check your answer first, like start with the answer and then do the addition method. But I got to see some work. If they tell you addition method, I got to see some work for the addition method. All right? So they have 5h plus 7k equals 32. And they have 4h plus 5k equals 25. So the addition method means you figure out something to kill, either the h's or the k's in this case. I think I decided the h's. Let's get rid of the h's. So 5h here, 4h there. So that means I need one of them to be 20h and one of them to be negative 20h. So it's sort of like common denominators. Like if you had 1/4 plus 1/5, you'd say, oh, the common denominator is 20. The smallest number they both go into. So the thing with this is you can't get it wrong even if you went with 40, not the smallest, like they'll both go into 40. You could totally get rid of it with the 40 and a negative 40. That would also work. You'd just be working bigger numbers. So that's why we try to keep them small. So now, these is the vision quest. I want this and I want this. But now, how did I get that? Well, I go back and I say, well, that's a 5. To make it be 20, I'd have to multiply everything by 4. So that times 4, that times 4, and that times 4. Don't forget that one. That one is overlooked so often. Most common mistake on this. So plus 28k and then equals 128. This one, we have to hit everything with a negative 5. A negative 5 times that. A negative 5 times that. A negative 5 times that. So negative 25k and negative 125. All right. And now we add straight down, and lo and behold, the h's die. Bloop. We get 3k, so we're down to a single variable. We can totally solve single variable. We can't solve it when there's two variables without graphing. But we can solve it algebraically if you eliminate one of the variables either through substitution or addition. They told us to use addition, so here we are. And then divide both sides by 3. And k is equal to 1. After you find one of them, you do substitute in this. You put it back into either one. I thought this one was a little easier. 4h plus either one will get you the same answer. So 4h plus 5 equals 25. And now your sweet solving skills, two-step equation. Isolate the variable, divide by the number in front. So minus 5 on both sides, 4h equals 20. Divide 4, and h equals 5. All right. Excelente. So let's look at, what do we got? Chapter 13. Still chapter 13. This was chapter 13, right? Yep. So let's see. Do we have time? We still have time. We can finish chapter 13. Okay, so number 2, solve using any method. 2d equals 1.25 p plus 1, and d equals 4.4 minus 0.35 p. So they said solve using any method, but they kind of set it up to be a substitution because they have d equals. So if you just take this 4.4 minus 0.35 p and sub it in where that is, you can solve with substitution. So that's what I'll do. You can do it different ways. You could use the addition method. You could use reduced row echelon form, like put it into a matrix. If you are putting it into a matrix, make sure to line up the p's and the d's. That's weird they chose p and d. All right. So we solve. Do the distributive property. We got it down to one variable. It's just p's. So 8.8 minus 0.7p equals 1.25 p plus 1. And now let's play moving stuff around. We'll add 0.7p to both sides, or move that across the equal sign. I had a student say, no, I don't add it, I kind of move it across the equal sign. That's fine. It's the same thing. So yeah, wipe that out, and so now we got 8.8 is equal to 1.95p plus 1, and then we subtract 1 from both sides to get the isolate the variable. So 7.8 equal to 1.95p. And now, if it ever works out like this to be an exact answer when you get these weird numbers, you know they kind of pre-cooked the problem. 0.95. Ooh, exactly 4. What are the chances? All right. And then we take 4 and we pop it back into here. This is definitely the easier one because look, I have d, and this is already solved for d. So you would still get the right answer if you put it in there, but then you have to do some work. Here, you just get to pop it right into the old calculator. 4.4 minus 0.35 times 4, and then hit enter, and wham, 3. All right, let's look at number 3. Oh, solve by graphing, solve by graphing. So remember, we're going to hit second, calculate, and then go down to intercept, and then it'll say first curve, and you hit enter, and it'll say second curve, and you hit enter. It'll say take a guess, and you can just hit enter, and then it'll give you the point of intersection, like where they cross. So this one is, they did put a little front loading on this. It says solve by graphing. So this one is good to go. We can put that into our calculator. So y sub 1, negative 2. Make sure you use the negative on the bottom of the keypad, not the minus. X plus 7. And y sub 2, just hit enter and it'll pop you down to y sub 2. And y sub 2, that one we need a little help because it's not solved for y. So we have to subtract 3x, negative 2y equals negative 3x minus 10. And then divide everything by negative 2. Don't forget that negative. That gets lost a lot of times. When students wipe out the one in front of it, they forget about the minus sign. They forget about the negative. So be careful not to do that. So y is equal to positive 3 halves x plus 5. So the way we key that in is 3x divided by 2 plus 5. And then hit enter, and you'll get this neat little graph. And it's a real ugly answer, so it's good that we had the technology on our side here. We get it. Crosses in the first quadrant. Looks something like that. And on the bottom, when you hit the readout, so you hit second and then trace, but that's calculate, and then go down to intercept, and then hit enter, and then it'll say first curve question mark, and you hit enter, it'll be that one. Second curve question mark, you hit enter, it'll be that one. Take a guess. You don't have to really take a guess. You can if you want to right click and take a guess, but you just hit enter again and it'll boom, pop up the answer. So 1.29 comma 4.43. Okay, and then solve by graphing again. So number 4 is exactly the same problem, just different numbers. And a little harder because they didn't have one of them solved out for y already. So y, and we got 7x plus y equals negative 6. So that's kind of easy, just subtract 7x from both sides. So y sub 1 is equal to negative 7x minus 6. And then the other one is a little harder. You got to isolate the variable, so minus 3x. We're solving for y. Negative 2y equals negative 3x. Minus 10 again. They really like that. 3x and 10, I guess. And then divide by negative 2. Unless I wrote down the wrong problem. Let me see if I wrote down the wrong problem. I'm going to be so mad at I wrote down the wrong problem. 3 halves x plus 5. Let's take a look at the original. Number 4, 3x minus 2y equals negative 10. And number 3, 3x. Hold on. Chapter 13 is up there. Oh, I think I have them right. Okay. Anyway, so 2 is 3x over 2 plus 5, and so then we graph it. And we get zip. And there we are. Oh, well, that one actually has a negative 6, so that one's down here. Sorry, I graphed that one really bad. Should be a little more like that. It does hit in the second quadrant, though. And so that is negative 1.29 and 3.06 is the answer to that one. And let's double check that. Why can't I find it? Oh, there it is. Okay, negative 1.29 and 3.06. Yep, the other one was 1.29. I just thought it was weird that they 1.29 and negative 1.29. That's really strange, isn't it? Okay, so one last one for chapter 13. Ooh, we're almost at 3 minutes. All right, so eliminate W, solve for T. This one will be pretty quick. We'll do it quick. Quick. So fun with graphing. And now Number 5 was eliminate W and solve for T. And they have D is equal to P or B W over R, and W is equal to D over RT. So here's the thing. Before you start, and what I wanted to do right away, because it says eliminate W and solve for T, okay, I wanted to just grab this and throw it in there right away. Don't, because then you have a fraction over fraction. So before you start, make this non-fractional, just cross multiply. So you have dr is equal to bw. Now take that and replace the w. And it'll be a lot easier. So we have dr is equal to b times d over rt. All right? And remember how this plays. We have a b, which is actually b over 1. So top times top, bottom times bottom. So now you have dr equals bd over rt. And they want me to solve for t. So I'm going to cross multiply and solve. So we got dr squared, right? Because there's two r's. T is equal to bd. Little Mr. Krabs there. A pirate doesn't say okie dokie then. A pirate says R. And so D R R T and dr squared, so that cancels, and there's our answer. BD over dr squared. With a tiny little dash of SpongeBob in there to make it a little less boring. Okay, that's part 1. Final review, part 1.